Hello again, my name is Anas Minu. Let's settle for the details now. The minority in Parliament says the House will not be able to correct defects in the AGYAPA deal as revealed in the Corruption Risk Assessment Report of the Special Prosecutor, insisting a cancellation is the better remedy. Now, Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu insists the AGYAPA deal is a bad one, which his side will never support, even when it comes to the House for the second time.
Not too sure whether it is a recommendation of the President that the transaction gets back to Parliament, or it is the recommendation of the Special Prosecutor. It's certainly not. It's certainly not the Special Prosecutor's recommendation that the transaction be sent back to Parliament. And when the President so refers it back to Parliament, for Parliament to do what? Parliament cannot remedy the defects of the transaction in any way possible. That is why we question the transaction. In any case, what is government desperately looking for $500 million for? What do they want the money for? What is the national need? What is the emergency for which we must borrow? From a transaction that we earn without borrowing, gold contribute 4% to our national revenue. Government without AGYAPA earns $130 million annually from gold revenue, and just 10 of the mineral mining companies make significant contribution to our total revenue. Parliament cannot remedy the defects so identified by the Special Prosecutor. How is Parliament going to cure nepotism and cronyism? How is Parliament going to cure that you appointed a chief executive without due process? How is Parliament going to cure that you pass a resolution on a non-existing law? You don't build a house on nothing. It was built on nothing. How is Parliament going to cure that a motion is moved and the motion is amended at the very time it was to be adopted, to make room to wait for a president to assent to a bill so passed by Parliament? We feel strongly vindicated. The truth must always stand with the political minority at all times. And Ghanaians will now understand why momentarily I lost my cool and temperament. For an important national matter of this character and nature, you find a Minister of State trivialize it with Papano at that time, not concerned about the weight and magnitude of this particular transaction. You want to take gold revenue for the next 10, 15 years. What does that mean to the state? What does it mean to chiefs and people who earn a portion of the Mineral Development Fund? Government ministers were joking and reduced that transaction to a trifle.
So are you calling for it to be totally scrapped, suspended? What is your call as a minority leader?
The minority is not likely to change its position on AGYAPA. We don't support it today. We don't support it tomorrow. We don't support it into the future.
If they go ahead and bring it, you still not. I spoke to your deputy, Honorable Abeji, yesterday, and he told me that the minority would only support this if it comes with amendment to it. He wasn't specific as to what amendment he wanted to see. The minority,
Parliament cannot correct any of the defined defects. But just be here. I'm coming in 1 minute. Don't move away. 1 minute.
And so that's the Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu. But the Majority Leader, Osei Mensah-Bonsu, says Parliament will only know what exactly it has to do after the referral arrives in the House. He insists it's early days to conclude Parliament cannot relook at the agreement.
If I see it, then we will see what exactly is being required of Parliament. But it should be normal. As I said, in agreements, in bills, if we pass bills or approve agreements, and maybe the President, subject to the availability of some additional information believe that the Parliament ought to have a second look at some particular provisions, he may draw attention to that. And if it comes back to us, and usually it will be maybe in consultation with the Council of State. If it comes to us and we have a second look and we believe that, yes, giving the additional information that we have, some amendment may have to be proffered, we will do that. However, it is also possible that when referrals from the President come back to Parliament, Parliament upon second consideration may decide that no, we are happy with what we did, and that there's nothing untoward about what Parliament did earlier. So I would want to know exactly what the terms of reference that is back to Parliament is, and then we will address our minds.
But realistically, looking at the time that is left before the House goes over this, can Parliament consider a referral back to the House with all of the 5 agreements, the assignment agreement, the allocation agreement, the relationship agreement, and all the agreements that were brought to the House, and this deal was signed off and passed?
First of all, I've indicated to you that I don't know the terms of reference. Okay. I'm not too sure that you know the terms of reference. You're only conjecturing. So let it come to us. Once we see, it cannot be. Don't forget that this agreement came from the presidency, right? And it cannot be that the president will say that, oh, the whole thing is wrong. Look at it again. If the whole thing is wrong, then it will mean that the president will have to bring a different agreement, right? Then you ask whether we'll be able to handle it from now until Saturday when we will adjourn. I don't know the content of the bag that is coming to us. If we assess it and we believe that we can work on it, we will apply ourselves to it. But already we have a tall order of business for us to process and indeed transact. If adding to it, we believe that it's possible, so be it. If it's not possible, we'll have to tarry a while. But I don't know what it entails. So I cannot make any definitive pronouncement on that.
Some say this shows Parliament didn't do a good job with the earlier document that was approved.
How does it?
We'll be heading to Parliament shortly for the latest on this development, but the National Communications Officer of the NDC, Sami Jemfi, says the Special Prosecutor's findings on the AGYAPA royalties deal vindicates the minority who have kicked against the deal since its inception. President Akufo-Addo has directed a parliamentary review of the deal in December after the Special Prosecutor, Martin Amidu, in a risk assessment observed possible bid rigging in the appointment of transaction advisors for the AGYAPA royalties deal. Now calling for the removal of the finance minister, Sami Jemfi said the familiarity between the president and his appointees is affecting his ability to crack the whip. He spoke on PM Express.
To the extent that monies have been paid to data bank owned by the finance minister and cousin to President Akufo-Addo, under this corrupt, nepotistic AGYAPA deal, to the extent that our taxpayers' money, Evans, have been paid to the law firm owned by cousin of President Akufo-Addo, Gabi Ochredako, under this stinking, corrupt AGYAPA deal. And to the extent that President Akufo-Addo has not said anything about the refund of those monies, to the extent that President Akufo-Addo has not sacked this finance minister, to the extent that he's not calling for his resignation, to the extent that he is still defending him, what he should tell every Ghanaian, that this revelation from the Special Prosecutor about this AGYAPA deal is not only a vindication of the NDC and the minority in Parliament relative to what we told the nation about this deal, that this was a corrupt, nepotistic deal cooked by President Akufo-Addo for his family and friends, but President Akufo-Addo is not ready to let go of this AGYAPA. He's not ready to ensure that Ghana gets the millions of cedis that we have paid to companies owned by his cousin, that is Data Bank, owned by Ken Ofori-Atta, African Legal Associates, that law chamber owned by Gabi Ochredako. To the extent that President Akufo-Addo has not said anything about that, He even says that he's defending his cousin. You see what nepotism can do when we say that nepotism and corruption are inseparable bedfellows, and that the familiar tie between the president and his appointees is making it difficult for him to punish them for their corrupt acts.
Now, applauding government, Member of Parliament on the Finance Committee, Ochim Abuaje, said bringing back the AGYAPA royalties deal to Parliament will enable a proper analysis of the terms of the agreement, and if a case is made for it, it will be approved again.
I think the president has done the needful. He sent it to special prosecutor.
Apologize to
you
defended
AGYAPA. Come on, Sammy, and say eventually we are saying that the president, I believe in the Minister of Finance. I do too. Bring it back to Parliament. We'll take a look at it, because at Parliament, what you guys were asking was only basically give us enough time. Now you have all the time to look at it.
You're in Parliament. When this comes back, you approve it again, or
no, when it comes back and they make the case, why?
And so we'll bring you more on this development shortly, but let me take you to Ododo for some development on election-related matters. Members of the NDC in the Ododo constituency who involved themselves in the violent activities ahead of elections will be handed over to the police. Now, Member of Parliament for the constituency, Nilante Van der Poel, is committing himself to peace ahead of this year's crucial elections. He's also urging the police to be impartial and professional in the discharge of their duties ahead of this year's polls. Nilante Van der Poel spoke at an event organized by the National Small Arms Commission to commit various political actors to peace. My colleague Kweku Asante joins us on the line with more on this. Kweku, tell us about what the Member of Parliament for the Dodio has been saying. Beyond asking the police to be impartial, what is his message of peace to his constituents? Kweku Asante, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, so the Member of Parliament for the Dodo has been speaking at this event organized by the Small Arms Commission. He's asked the police to be impartial. He is committing himself to peace, but what has he been telling his constituents?
Well, so the Honorable Member of Parliament for the Ododo constituency, Honorable Nilante Van der Poel, has been saying that on his part, he will ensure that there is peace before, during, and after the election. According to him, some of the violence that, we've all witnessed in this constituency is not something that he has been a party to. He's not caused any violence, and that he's warning the supporters in the constituency that if any of them engage themselves in activities that lend themselves to violence, then they are going to hand all of them to the police. As well, he's been urging the police to be professional. Of course, the NDC has been accusing the police in some areas of the country, and even with this Ododio, that they have been favoring supporters of the NPP. They have not been arresting them, and they've been applying the law selectively. So Nilante Van der Poel has been urging the police to be firm, to be professional in their duties, and ensure that for both sides of any conflict, they would ensure that whoever is culpable without their political colors must be dealt with.
And on the bit about handing over those involved in the violent clashes witnessed 2 weeks ago in his constituency, did he say that he has already handed them over, identified them? What exactly are his words?
Well, so Nilante Van der Poel actually has been saying that if he's going to hand over those who do things going ahead, he did not commit to the violence that happened a few days ago. And actually, a bit of a context will matter, because he has actually been saying that the NDC has actually been the victims. They have been the victims of this conflict. And so they have no one to hand over to the police, because they were rather brutalized by supporters of the NPP. And so that is what he's been saying previously. But he has been assuring that going forward, any violence of situation that happens that have NDC supporters as partakers will be handed over to the police. But those violence that happened a few days ago, he's been saying that they are rather the victims of that situation and have no one to hand over.
Tell us about the remarks of the Small Arms Commission at this event.
Well, so the Small Arms Commission is saying that they would rather that people use political leadership and dialogue to settle their disputes whenever they occur in the lead up to the general election. And as you will recall, that there have been several instances of clashes between supporters of the NDP and NDC across the country. And so the Small Arms Commission is saying that it is not appropriate to use arms, to use violence, to settle political differences. And so they are urging political actors in the country to be able to bring their supporters on board to settle their disputes through dialogue. And they are saying they are not going to just leave this situation here to the video. They are going to go to every other constituency that has been listed as a hotspot and bring the political actors on board to commit to peace ahead of the election.
That's my colleague Kwekwa Asante, who was at an event organized by the Small Arms Commission. They engaged the Member of Parliament for Ododo and indeed executives of the NDC in that constituency who are committing to peace ahead of the December polls. We'll be following that and their subsequent interactions in the other flashpoint, and we'll bring you up to speed here on your JoyNews channel. Now to other stories. Now, the contractor working on the Walewale Township roads has been chased out of sight by angry residents who accuse him of using substandard materials and doing a shoddy work. Yesterday, residents demonstrated to protest the poor quality of work they claim he's been doing. Now, what happens to the project now? MC for the area, Lucky Aremeyaw Sumo, joins us on the line. Thank you very much, sir, for your time here on JoyNews today. You've been following this development. First of all, they accuse the contractor of doing a poor job and using substandard material. How do you respond to this? And we're still working the lines to get in touch with the MC for the area, Lucky Somo, to bring us some details and to respond to the concerns raised by the constituents of Walewale who are not happy with the construction of the town roads there. They say the contractor is using substandard materials and in fact, they go on to accuse the MCE of looking on for this project to continue despite the concerns they've raised. They raised a number of accusations. We're working the lines. Once we're able to get the MC, Lucky Somo Aremeyaw, for an update, we'll bring you that and his response to the concerns raised by this. Let's speak to correspondent Ilyasu Tanko for the latest on this. Ilyasu, yesterday they poured out onto the street with red handbands and all of that. What is the situation today?
Well, since the protest, the contractor has not returned to site. As we speak, the residents are determined to ensure that the contractor will do the right thing. They are accusing the contractor of doing shoddy work on unnecessary delay. They are saying that until the contractor come and sit with them and tell them or promise them that he's going to do a good work, they will not allow the contractor to continue with the project.
Have they still mobilized and are they at the construction site?
Not at all. I mean, but they are in the area monitoring the project. They are saying that they have spoken with the contractor. They have drew his attention multiple times to the fact that he's using substandard in the construction of the township roads. As we speak, many parts of the roads have already peeled off. And so the residents are saying that as a result of the shoddy work that the contractor is doing, anytime it rains, their houses get flooded, and they want him to do the right thing. So as we speak, they are still in their houses. In fact, it's the residents of Kokwa who are particularly taking this particular action, and so they are staying alert, watching the contractor, and they are saying they will not allow him to come out back on site until he comes to them, sit with them, and promise that he's going to do the right thing.
Now, in all of this, the MC has also been accused. Have you gotten in touch with him? Have you spoken to him, and what is he saying about this?
The MC has also been blamed for allowing such a shoddy work to go on under his watch, and the MC has not been speaking much. The last time the MC spoke on this particular incident was when the contractor abandoned the site, and since then he promised that he was going to ensure that the contractor is back on site. Truly, the contractor is back on site, but the residents insisted that he's still doing a shoddy work. Since the protest started, the MC has not publicly spoken on this particular matter.
So from the pictures you sent us and the videos, so we see bitumen and some chippings that are being used for the construction. Is it that the residents want the road asphalted?
Exactly. They are saying that the contractor only can pour the chippings on the road, and that's all. They want the road to be asphalted. They say they have seen road construction in other parts of the country. This is not the way it's been done. They want the contractor to really do a good job by asphalting this particular road. They say they don't want the chippings the cheapest was done when the road construction started, and with few rains, all the chippings were washed away, and so they say that they want the road to be asphalted, not the chippings as the contractor is doing currently on the road.
Ilyasu, thank you very much for bringing us out to speed on this development. And once we have the Minister Chief Executive, Lucky Somo Aremayal, will bring his side of the story, plus a response to the concerns being raised by the residents. Away from that, 46-year-old Kwesi Chairman of Sueyi has been adjudged the overall best farmer in the Techiman North District of the Bono East region. The district award scheme held ahead of the 2020 National Farmers' Day celebration was held under the theme Ensuring Agribusiness Development Under COVID-19 Opportunities and Challenges. Correspondent Anasabit was at the awards and came through with the following report.
Ahead of the 36th National Farmers' Day celebrations scheduled to be held in Techiman in the Bono East region, the Techiman North District conducted its Farmers' Day Awards at the Boyem Methodist School Park. The award scheme, held annually in honor of farmers whose efforts have been the backbone of the country's economy, was held under the theme Ensuring Agribusiness Development Under COVID-19 Opportunities and Challenges. District Director of Agriculture, Mr. Paul Toolong, encouraged farmers to invest into their farms by adopting to improved farming technologies.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to encourage our farmers to take farming as a business and invest in it. As the theme for this year's is Ensuring Agribusiness Development Under COVID-19 Opportunities and Challenges. I would therefore encourage farmers to continue to work hard, irrespective of how small their farms are. By so doing, the farming activity can develop into a big-time business which will improve upon their living standard. In achieving this aim, our farmers should try and adopt improved technologies that our AEs have been disseminating, and also take advantage of agricultural projects that are being implemented on the fields.
He also called on government to support vegetable farmers with irrigation facilities to aid all-year farming.
I would therefore wish our farming system, especially for vegetables production, is under irrigation, and this can make them stagger planting time and harvest their produce all year round.
District Chief Executive Mr. Peter Mensah indicated that agribusiness development is the solution to providing jobs to Ghana's teeming unemployed youth.
The theme for this year's celebration was that it's carefully chosen to reflect the precarious situation at hand and the important role of the sector to the economic development and transformation of our country. It is also to give the strongest indication that the agriculture sector is no more just for the purpose of subsistence farming, but rather lucrative venture for the youth to delve into for prosperity.
He added that the district is benefiting from government's flagship One District, One Factory policy aimed at providing direct and indirect jobs.
Mr. Chairman, I'm glad to announce to you that in the next couple of weeks, the major 1D, 1F project in Techiman North District will be operationalized for the processing of garlic, onions, and other vegetables. This ultimately will be creating both direct and indirect jobs for the teeming youth of Techiman North.
46-year-old Kwesi Cheme won the overall District Best Farmer Award. He urged the youth to venture into farming as it is now a lucrative business. On his part, District Best Physically Challenged Farmer Odru Frimpong Thomas charged persons with disability to move away from the streets and adopt farming as a source of livelihood.
My advice to my fellow amputated people or the brandmen or physically challenged people is that instead of them going outside and beg, they should force hard and use their hand in farming, and God will help them through their hard working.
Reporting for JoyNews, Anas Sabit, Boyem.
Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to Business. My name is Darryl Kwao. Economist Professor Eric Esibe is urging the private sector to support initiatives by government to diversify the economy. According to him, the call for diversification is very critical that government alone cannot handle. He was speaking to Joy Business on the sidelines of the graphic business Stanbic Bank breakfast meeting held in Accra.
That we are looking more into import substitution products, right, that are going to be produced here. And therefore, it's one thing that the business people having the need to invest in such resources, and there's another thing, the people themselves demanding the product that come out of the produce. And so, as I mentioned, it's a collective responsibility, and it will mean that we need to have some kind of attitudinal change. We need to have a positive attitude towards made in Ghana products. Change our taste and preferences towards that, because if they produce and we don't demand it, they will not be able to build the necessary capacity that will help them to be able to participate into the global or the regional value chain. And so we need to start from home, so that the whole talk about diversification is not only the responsibility of the states, it is the responsibility of the private sector, producers, and then the consumers. All of us have to come together to make it happen. Otherwise, no amount of investment can really help to sustain, production. We've seen businesses that have started, that often because of lack of markets and demand for their produce, they fizzled out.
Now, senior partner at PricewaterhouseCoopers, Vish Ashiagbo, who also spoke to us at the event, believes that the Bank of Ghana and the commercial banks in the country should be empowered to support businesses to facilitate economic growth.
Banks mobilize money from depositors, right? And that comes at a cost. So they need to pay that, they need to cover their own costs, and then perhaps make a small margin on top of that. So if you look at these various inputs, something has to give for the interest rates to come down. And in an overall economy where you have a certain level of inflation, I don't think any depositor will be motivated to leave their money in a bank and be getting or be losing value, let's say. So the whole macroeconomic equation comes to play when you talk about the interest rates that banks charge. Then, of course, there's a risk element. I mentioned earlier that those of us in private sector must also take a certain amount of responsibility in terms of how we manage our businesses, how we keep records, because all these things speak to risk. And these are risks that the banks try to price and to cover as part of their interest rates. So to the extent that your business is well run, to the extent that your business has records that are clear, to the extent that your business has good management practices, I think you can reduce some element of those interest rates. But of course, it's not necessarily within your power to deal with the bigger issues such as the level of inflation in the economy, for which the bank is also trying to cover. And within the bank's own control is how they manage their costs, which is why a lot of them are also pushing digitization and other things, just as we have discussed today. So it's a long-standing problem, but I think there are efforts ongoing in that direction. But as I always say, it's a shared responsibility, and private sector also has a role to play in that.
The graphic business Stanbic Bank breakfast meeting, management consultant Michael Kuto is calling for a national investment holding corporation. This, he believes, will leverage strategic investment needs of the nation. He's been speaking with Insurado on the big conversation on a segment of Business Connect show on Joy Prime.
I think the most important thing we can do is to consolidate the various funds that we've got. We've got a lot of, small, mini funds all over the place. The petroleum funds are there. We've got a mineral investment fund for gold. We've got a couple of other, strategic funds that are doing things bits here and there. They are spread too thin. The key thing, in my opinion, is to consolidate all of these funds, or as many of them as possible, under a strategic national investment holding corporation. When you do that, you're able to build economies of scale, you're able to build more clout, and you're able to acquire more leverage in the capacity to use these funds to raise more capital, to leverage that clout, to be able to crowd in more private resources in order to be able to do more development in country. So for me, this is extremely important. We need to find a way to consolidate and aggregate all these funds and future funds, and we need to be able to do that by setting up a national investment holding corporation, under which you aggregate not just the funds but also the various talents and the various logistics and other soft resources that are spread thinly all over the place. I think this is extremely important.
We've got a full bulletin of business news at the top of the hour. Up next is sports. Stay tuned.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to the sports segment with me, Oreku Ampofo. We start off with some local stories where the Ghana Football Association President Keto Kreku has heaped praises on the Women's League clubs who used part of their COVID-19 relief funds to purchase buses. Ket added that the acquisition of buses will certainly help solve the transportation challenge that teams had been facing. We do have more for you in the following reports by Haruna Mubarak.
FIFA supported women's football with $500,000. Most Ghanaian clubs used part of their money for the acquisition of buses. President of the GFA, Keto Kreku, hailed the decision of the clubs to invest their monies into one of the most important areas of their business, which is the challenge of transportation.
Well, I am particularly excited. Excited because I think that the various levels of engagement we're having with our members is eventually paying off by way of output. Okay, and I wasn't surprised that some of our colleagues invested part of the COVID money in the acquisition of vehicles, which is a need for their daily operations. Clearly, every member of the Federation have different needs, so you identify your need and apply same. So I'm very happy.
The FA has been engaging members on the repositioning of the brand Ghana football. According to the president, Ket Okreku, he believes these engagements behind the scenes have created energy surrounding competitions of the football governing body, and he's hopeful that programs of the association will catapult the interest in the game.
If you follow the media landscape, there's a lot of energy gradually coming into the system. Clubs are opening up via social media platforms to sell their brand and reposition their brand. And this as a result of hard work behind the scenes, engaging our members on various levels to ensure that our repositioning agenda is not left alone in the hands of the Football Association. So we are very much on track, and hopefully when eventually we roll out the program for the season, everybody will be happy.
The 2020-2021 Women's Premier League is set to commence in January next year.
Now, musician Wolasi also says he is not a political person and will not be voting in the upcoming elections. Here is why.
Would you say you're a political person?
No, I'm a musician, and I use my music to address issues that are bothering or disturbing or keeping us or stopping our people from being better or being a better of themselves, basically. I feel like if we are all in this world and there's access to everything, why should we Africans always be the least to have some things, and or for us to be back in terms of development, education or religion whatsoever? And I feel that is the only way, music is the only way I can address that. So I am not a politician. I talk about women too, women with nice bodies, big butts, because there's a lot of things that I talk about. It's just unfortunate that most of my songs is around politics because it bothers me and it affects some of my friends and me as a person too.
Okay, in your song 4 years, you keep on saying, you said that they keep on lying to us and we keep on, following them. Yeah. Why do you think we keep on following them?
Because the power is not in our hands once we give them the power. The power is is always in our hands only when it's time to vote. And just after that day, that's it. There's no power in our hands anymore. The power lies in the hands of our leaders. And when you taste money and power, it gets to you, and you tend to forget the reason why you are put on the seat. Sorry. And so that's why I made the song. I feel like I don't understand why people give people power, and then those who have the power tend to just rob and lie to the people who give them the power. Yeah.
Okay.
Very sad.
Talking about power, it's 2020, which means it's an election year. On the 7th of December, Ghanaians are voting. Will you be voting?
We are preparing to shoot a movie on around 7th December. Okay. My manager and I, we are shooting a short film. Okay. And it's rather unfortunate, very, very unfortunate that we are shooting. It is rather unfortunate that during that time we are shooting a movie, so I will not be able to vote that day. Okay. Yeah.
And you do know that the polls open at 7 o'clock in the morning, right?
I don't know that.
Okay.
On that note, we end Showbiz here on JoyNews today. My name is Becky.
Thank you very much, Becky, for bringing us Showbiz. That's it for our show this afternoon. There's more news when you log on to myjohnline.com. I'm Ernest Mino. Good afternoon. Up next is Business Live with the Marketplace with Charles Aitis. Stay tuned in.
Was brought to you by
Number 10 liver salt from Ernest Chemists, because everyone needs a chemist.